Let's get you updated on the current grain prices in Chicago. We'll take a look first of all at the corn board and see if it's still lower on the day or not. It opened about a penny lower this morning. And as we go to the big board right now, you have that March contract now trading at 350.5. So we are still down by a penny and a half. Trolling around the low of the day, we have July down 2 at 367. On the soybean trade, let's take a look at the March contract there. It is now 3.5 lower at 980 3/4. That's on the low of the day. That had been about 3 higher on the open. July down 3.5 at 1002 1/4. Now looking at the wheat market this morning in Chicago wheat, first of all. We now have the March contract down 4 at 421 3/4. That had been holding its own overnight. And in the Kansas City market, we have the March contract now trading at 424. That is down 4.5 cents on the day. Meanwhile, Minneapolis wheat has March now trading. Well, let's flip over to Minneapolis if we can here. There it is. The March contract down a half at 606.5. It had been higher as well overnight. And in the cotton market right now, you have your March contract now trading 64 points lower at 82.77 per pound. Let's go to the phone and let's talk with Ben Hushon of the Mill in Whitehall, Maryland, to see what's going on. And I know the big talk these days, Ben, has been what the weather impact has been. Well, we've been talking about Texas being so dry. Is that the case where you are? I bet not.
Good morning, Marlin. No, it is not. Just as Tim Ross discussed before I came on, weather just seems like we keep getting moisture up here. We had cold weather for a little while and a little bit of snow. Now it seems like once, twice a week we're back in that warmer, rainy pattern. Sun's out at the moment, but there's black clouds on the horizon. So plenty of moisture for this area.
Well, you had sent a note earlier talking about how farmers need to be using some technology this time of year to analyze their situation as we get into the growing season moving forward.
Marlon, one of the things that pretty much is on farmers' mind this time of year is soil samples. You know, they were taken in the fall and the winter before ground started to freeze, but now it's time to sit down and look through the results. And historically, they've always been in 3-ring binders. You know, each year has its own tab, or each file drawer or section in the file drawer has its own year, and you spread them all out, and it just becomes, well, it's almost like taxes at farm time. You know, there's so much information there, it's hard to grasp or see. You end up looking at everything in a snapshot. What are our soil test results this year? What are we going to do next year? Well, for the viewers, I sent in a slide, just a little snippet of what programs like Ag Studio or R7 can do for you. You can take one field, and instead of having 3 or 4 different pieces of paper spread out, you can throw them in a bar chart or in a graph and try to look for trends. You know, in this area, we've had 4 or 5 real good years. What are the trends? What's happening to my calcium, magnesium, phosphorus? Do I need to adjust? Instead of looking at a snapshot, use the technology that's available to make it a little easier, a whole lot easier, actually, to see what's happening on your farm.
All right. Well, Ben, excellent information. And I know it's getting to be the meeting season. I know you have several coming up. And I'd like to visit with you, if you don't mind, next week when we have more time to talk about it. And you can get our viewers updated on what's been talked about in that mid-Atlantic region there, where you're located there in Whitehall, Maryland. So anyway, thank you for the update. Good to visit with you again. And we'll let you go for the time being. For now, we'll take a quick break, and we will come back and analyze what's going on in our livestock trade on a Tuesday, right on the other side of these messages. Thanks for joining us. And again, my thanks to Ben Hushon of the Mill in Whitehall, Maryland. And we'll be talking with him next week at this very same time. All right, now let's take a look at what's going on in our livestock trade today. And we opened things up about steady to firmer in many of the livestock contracts, but then within just mere moments, everything turned around and went south after that. Well, as it stands right now, on the live cattle board, we have the nearby February contract quoted about 5 cents higher. That would be 2 ticks higher at 123.60 per hundredweight. It's much closer to the low of the day than it is the high. We have the April contract 5 cents lower, and it's trading at 123.92. Check that now, 123.88, and that would be down 9 cents as it stands right now. So still, we are trading that one about a $0.50 off of its high from the open this morning. We have the June contract now quoted 22 lower, and it stands at 115.33 per hundredweight right now, also a little over a $0.50 off of its earlier high from this morning. On the feeder cattle trade, now here on the feeders, we currently have the January up a couple of pennies, but that's the only one that is showing a plus side right now. We have the March contract now 2 lower. It's at 145.80 per hundredweight. And we had a high earlier of 146.32, so it really backed up a little bit from that. Right now you have your March a couple of pennies lower at 145.80. We have April down a dime. Last quote 146.38 per hundredweight there. The May contract down 23. So they're not moving very far, but they are moving to the downside of most contracts here, just showing some slight weakness at the present time. Did want to take a look at yesterday's livestock summary, if we could here. As far as the cash cattle market activity, some folks are wondering if we sold any out there around the Midwest or not. And the answer would be a no. USDA did not report anything sold around the Plains region yesterday at all. I heard a report there may have been a couple of loads that had sold in Iowa, but there was not enough to report a trade out of that. So obviously nothing can be garnered from that. Meanwhile, we did have the beef cutout values that were posted yesterday afternoon from USDA. There was some question as to whether they would come out or not with the temporary shutdown. And we did have beef cutouts on the choice cuts yesterday firming up by 21 cents. They were priced at 205.07 per hundredweight. And you had the select cuts down 64 cents yesterday afternoon, and they were priced at 199.52. So that spread continues to be very narrow, even though it did widen out quite a bit yesterday. Now, let's take a look here also at the cash hog prices yesterday. We were showing on the national hog prices on a live basis, we were down 80 cents. The weighted average price was $53.50 yesterday on a carcass basis. Nationwide, the price was 44 higher at $69.67 for a weighted average price. Let's look at the lean hog futures right now and see how they're doing. And so far on the big board in Chicago, we have the February down 12 at 71.68. So that is well off our earlier high by about 80 cents this morning. The April contract down 67 right now at 74.45. Meanwhile, we have the May contract down 45 at 79.20. Now, everything lower on the futures on the hogs, but I wanted to point out the pork carcass cutout values yesterday in case you missed it. They were all higher, and in fact, the belly market was sharply higher all by itself. $5.49 higher yesterday at 143.04. The other primal cuts, well, the carcass values were up 73, but the other primal cuts were up, just not nearly anything like that. Yeah. So the belly market was running away with it. That's 2 days straight. It's been acting like that, Christina.
But we're seeing a change, though, for the rest, huh?
Futures weakening up here today so far. It's early.
Okay, it is early. You're right about that. Thank you, Markets Editor Marlin Bohling.